One of the most successful entrepreneurs in America over the past 50 years is going public with his fourth and final prediction about a scenario he calls America's nightmare winter. You've probably never heard of Bill Bonner, but in addition to owning an interest in businesses all over the globe, he also owns more than 100,000 acres with massive properties in South America, Central America, the US, plus 3 large properties in Europe. Bonner says we're about to enter a very strange period in America, which could result in the most difficult times we've seen in many, many years. Bonner has made 3 similar predictions in his 50-plus year career, and each one proved to be exactly right, although he was mocked each and every time. This is why I strongly encourage you to read about Bonner's fourth and final prediction totally free today. It's all spelled out in a free report we've put together about America's nightmare winter scenario. Get the facts for yourself. Go to americasnightmarewinter.com to get your free copy of this report. Even if he's only partially right, it will dramatically affect you and your money. So again, go to americasnightmarewinter.com for this free report. Hi, this is Daniela Cambone, and welcome back to the Daniela Cambone Show. We are back from vacation, refreshed, recharged, ready to bring you more incredible content. And if I may share, it is my birthday. And who better to celebrate with than Robert Kiyosaki, best-selling author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And he's back now with another book that I'm sure is going to become another bestseller here, Capitalist Manifesto. Excuse all the post-it notes, but I have been studying. Robert, welcome back to the show. Good to see you, my friend.
Well, thank you. I've missed you. But I love what you're producing, but it's been too long.
I took a 1-week break, but yes, it does feel like a long time. But we have a lot of ground to cover, Robert. Like I said, your new book out. But I want to start with some recent comments of yours that have, obviously been worrying a few folks, because you're saying, look, guys, the crash is really here. The big crash that you've been predicting, stocks, gold, silver, Bitcoin, real estate, all crashing. But as you say, now's the time to get rich. So before we talk to your book, just a little thoughts about where your head is at these days, your thoughts on the economy right now.
Well, as I've said many times in your program, it's a very simple point of view. I simply don't trust my government, especially this character, Biden. And I don't trust the Fed, I don't trust the banks, and I don't trust Wall Street. So it's pretty simple philosophy. In other words, what I say, every time I'm on your show, if you can print it, I don't want it. So if you can print the dollar, I don't want it. You can print a stock, I don't want it. I want something I can see, touch, and feel, or like our friend Jim Rickard says, what's real? Find out what's real. So as you know, I've been a gold bug since about 1971 when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. And I'm becoming more fanatical, not less. And I literally have tons of gold and silver, tons, because I own gold mines. And by the way, you were invited to my gold mine in Utah, and I wish you had been there. You would have gone down into the mine and seen veins of gold.
Well, I'm happy to make it happen. We'll definitely come check it out, Robert. I want to talk more about gold with you. But one of the things that struck me when I read your book with great interest is you say you had nothing to gain by writing this new book, but everything to lose. Why'd you do it? Why write a new book? You have tons of success. You didn't have to put out another book, but why'd you feel you had to?
Well, it's the same reason. I graduated from school in New York in 1969, and I had a high-paying job. I'm an oil guy. So I sail for Standard Oil under oil tankers. So my background is oil. But I still joined the U.S. Marine Corps in 1969 to go fight in Vietnam. And Marines don't fight for Democrats or Republicans, liberals or conservatives. Marines fight for our freedoms. And so when I saw our freedoms being taken away, especially after the 2020 election, like, Donald Trump's a personal friend of mine, I've written 2 books together. But when they took our freedoms away, that's when I went back to war. And that's why I'm willing to take the fire from the liberal academic left. And I'm afraid, I'm just concerned about our country and the world, especially this guy Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum, and what the hell are they doing? Why aren't we fighting back? So that's why I said I had more to lose than to gain by writing the book.
Well, why we're not fighting back? I mean, do you think enough people are aware of what's coming out of the economic forum and whatnot? Do you think there's an awareness?
Well, thanks for holding up my book, The Capitalist Manifesto, but in 1965, I was a surfer kid in Hawaii, completely screwed up, flunking out of high school because I can't write, and now I'm a best-selling author, which education does. But I read this book here. In 1965, I go to school, military school in New York. I had nominations to Naval Academy, West Point, and Kings Point. I took Kings Point. But my economics teacher, rather than have us read Keynes, Malthus, Ricardo, and Adam Smith, he had us read Marx, Stalin, Lenin, Mao, and Hitler. And so by reading this book in 1965, I realized, I hate to say this, but most academics are Marxists. And my poor dad was a Marxist. The abolition of private property, a heavier progressive income tax is essential for the proper development of communism. And Biden just appointed about 87,000 new IRS agents to go after small business owners. So we're becoming a fascist totalitarian state. But and most people think, well, paying taxes is, you're supposed to do it. If you look at history, the facts are America was founded as a tax revolt. 1773, I believe, Boston Tea Party. It was a tax revolt. We're not a slave nation. To say we're a systemically racist country is the biggest lie possible. There are racist, granted, but we're not systemically racist. And that's why I fight now. And that's why I said I better say something, because I went to military school. I fought in Vietnam twice, and I fight for freedom. And they're taking our freedoms away.
A lot of your book is, and a lot of your writings really are focused on the education system, right? And how you say it's so important to teach capitalism in the homes. And if I may share a personal, story with you, I dropped off my children this morning because they're starting pre-K, I guess their school journey. And the teachers were asking me, what do you want your kids to get out of this experience, from school? And I said, well, actually, I don't want them to fall in love with school. I want them to fall in love with learning. And she kind of just took a step back and looked at me, and I said, yeah, you should read Robert Kiyosaki. You should read Capitalist Manifesto, and you'll know what I mean. But all this to say, you've made me reflect a lot about my school journey. And now that my kids are starting theirs, about their school journey. And it worries me because you've been right all along about what we're teaching these kids in school. I mean, are we really preparing them for life, right? I mean, how, it's a hard question to answer, but it's like, how can we all just do a better job of preparing our children?
Well, again, it goes back to this book here. Marx said, this is 1848, it's only about 50 pages. It's not the most, but it's a great read. He said communism would come in 2 phases. And the first phase was 1930s. This was 1848. He said communism would come in 2 phases. So 1930, the Berlin school sent teachers to Columbia University to teach the Columbia University teachers program. And that's when communism entered America as socialism. And I was in school in New York in the 60s, and that's when the first rioting broke out at Columbia University, which spread across the country. And then the second phase happened, in my opinion, in 2020, when social media shut down the President of the United States. And that's the loss of our freedom of speech there. And COVID, which was Klaus Schwab, how can they censor doctors? How can you get fired for speaking out against COVID? I just don't understand our loss of freedoms, and we say nothing about it. So my point of view is communism entered America via our school system.
Well, to that point, one of your chapter one actually is called, We Were Warned, and you have a quote from Nikita Khrushchev that I just want to share here with everyone, where he says, this is in 1959, "Your children's children will live under communism. You Americans are so gullible. No, you won't accept communism outright, but we will keep feeding you small doses of socialism until you will finally wake up and you find you already have communism. We will not have to fight you. We will so weaken your economy until you fall like overripe fruit into our hands." Where do we go from here? I mean, how do you see this evolving, Robert?
Well, you and I were talking before we went on. There's this guy named Andy Sheckman. I never heard of him before. And he took my paranoia to a whole nother level. And he's worth listening to. My whole company has to listen to this guy, Andy Sheckman, because if you're not a gold bug by the time you listen, I've listened to him 3 times now. I'm on my 4th time going through his hour talk. But if you're not a gold bug by then, you'll never will be, because gold is money. And he talks about how the BIS, Bank of International Settlements, just elevated gold to tier 1. Gold used to be tier 3. That just happened. So tier 1 means gold is money. What was happening before this was the US Treasury bonds were money. And so gold just got promoted to tier 1, which Harry Dent and I get into it all the time because he's a smart dude, but he wants everybody to buy treasuries. And this guy, Andy Sheckman, again, I hope you guys interview him. If he doesn't make you drink the Kool-Aid for gold, nobody will. I mean, he is so frightening what he says. So my long way of saying it's getting worse. And this guy Sheckman has the data to back it up.
And I think, to that point, interesting to follow that since it's banned from the London Bullion Market Association, now Russia is looking to go on to its own gold standard. I think that speaks volumes. Any thoughts to that, Robert?
Yes, well, Andy Sheckman talks a lot about that. He talks about the BRICS. The BRICS nations are Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. And he talks about how the Belt and Road project now is going to affect 90% of the world's population, and they'll all be on the CBDC yuan. They'll be going into Chinese crypto, not American. So the US dollar, according to this guy Andy Sheckman, is toast. And that's why it's Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. They're going to take over the world with their own gold standard.
Okay, you say that he says the US dollar will ultimately be toast, but folks listening to this are going to say, Robert, how can that be? Look at the US dollar right now. It's the best game in town. What are your thoughts on the strength of the US dollar right now? And you said at the start, you don't want to touch it. You don't want to be in cash. Tell us more about why not.
Well, I would listen to Andy Sheckman because I tell you, man, if he doesn't convert you to the Kool-Aid of gold, nothing will. Nothing will. And that's why, as you know, I've been a gold bug since 1972. I was a Marine pilot in Vietnam, and I flew behind enemy lines to look for gold. And today I literally own tons of gold and silver. And so this guy, Andy Sheckman's talking about how the family offices and Commonwealth, everybody's buying gold and silver right now because they know the dollar's toast. So if you don't drink the Kool-Aid after watching Andy Sheckman's video, yeah, I can't help you.
And I know I've interviewed you enough times that I know you don't care about the price. So when people say, but Robert, look where gold's at now. It keeps dropping. We're below 1,800 now. But I know what Robert's going to say. Fantastic. I'm buying more, right?
I don't care about what the price is. All I care about is how many ounces. And I'm happy to say I now own tons because I'm a gold miner and a silver miner. I mean, and I own physical gold and silver. I know no ETFs. My rule of thumb, as you know, Danielle, is if you can
Yeah.
print it, I don't want it. So what am I investing in today? Gold, silver, oil. I own the oil in the ground. I own Japanese breeding bulls, Wagyu cattle. And so I don't sell the cattle, I sell the semen. It's called semen flow. And
How did you even get? How do you get involved in that? Did someone approach you and say, "Hey, Robert, there's a great opportunity here"? I mean, how does one get involved in that?
Well, because it goes back to that story I tell. I'm a Marine pilot flying off a carrier off the South China Sea, and I find out Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. I said, what does that mean? So I flew behind enemy lines because the NVA had overrun the mine. So proving Marines aren't the brightest guys on earth. And I try and buy gold at a discount. So I knew it was 35 an ounce. And the day I went looking for gold, it was $50 an ounce. And I was trying to get the little Vietnamese woman with red teeth. I still remember her. I was trying to get a discount. I want a discount. She goes, spot. I said, discount. She goes, spot. I said, what the hell is she talking about? She was one of my best teachers on gold I ever met. And ever since then, Danielle, I drank the Kool-Aid on gold and silver.
Just back to your point about how we can make money in these times. You said millions will be lost, right? But you bring up 2008, saying how that was a great period for you. You made tons of money. How can we seize opportunity? How can we find opportunity?
Well, they're everywhere. I invited you, and you're still invited. We bought a gold mine in Utah. I made the mistake of starting a gold mine in China. I took it public on the Toronto Stock Exchange, and the Chinese took it. So I stopped eating Chinese food after that. But anyway, they nationalized the damn mine. But anyway, I invited you, and you're still invited. This is my latest mine here. It's called the Trixie Mine, and the call sign is ODV. Well, let me read the ounces per ton. This piece here is 671 ounces per ton. My gold mine in China was 20 ounces per ton. This is 671 ounces. It's the richest gold mine possibly in the world, but in America. It's 140 years old, and it sat there. Nobody looked at it because it was 140 years old. And this enterprising guy named Marin Katusa out of Vancouver, he said, let me look at this. So he went into the gold mine. It's a long story to say. He looked at the records, 140 years of all these little miners, with the burros and all this stuff, digging around in this place in Utah. He took all their records and digitalized it. And once he digitalized it, he looked at it, he put it into kind of pictures, and he says, oh my God, those guys 140 years ago missed the vein. Without technology, he would never have seen it. So he went in there and he went left like 20 feet. And that's why it's 671 ounces per ton. The richest gold mine in America. Now, don't believe a word I say because I'm a pitch man, but it's ODV. Check it out. But there's more opportunity than ever before.
I will take you up on the offer, and I will personally come to the mine, and we'll do an interview.
You'll have a good time.
We'll do an interview. Speaking about asking Robert Kiyosaki advice, let's wrap with this, because in your book you speak about your interview with Oprah.
Yeah.
And in it you say, someone in the audience was asking you advice, and Oprah told the woman, wait, you shouldn't be asking him advice, you should be educating yourself. And you bring it back to today, where people stop you all the time. You're at George Guyman's conference in Miami, you're in an elevator. I'm sure you get asked all the time, Robert, what should I be buying? What should I be doing? And I know you love saying, well, you need to educate yourself. Don't ask anyone what you should be doing. But for the folks at home who are watching, who feel overwhelmed by the economic situation we find ourselves in, that don't even know where to begin, that don't even know the first book they should be reading. I mean, how do you start your financial journey?
Well, I say the same thing. A couple of questions. What does school teach you about money? And the answer is nothing. And the reason I put Oprah in there because this guy here is my friend, Donald.
Yeah.
So I need to be fair and balanced, if you know what I mean. Otherwise, I get attacked. But Danielle, all those years I've been, I love you dearly. You always interview me. I keep saying the same thing. Put yourself on the gold standard. Don't wait for the federal government to go back on the gold standard. Start buying some gold and silver coins and keep it in a safe and don't tell anybody you have it. But put yourself on your own gold and silver standard. Do you know what I mean? So I started small, and now I literally own tons of gold and silver. But I went into the mining industry.
Robert, you're obviously following the real estate market closely. You've made a ton of money in this sector. What do you make of what's happening in real estate?
Well, it's real estate is different because it's regional, And so I was just in Miami, and it's booming, and you go to other states, they're dying. So and crime. What I'm concerned about is crime is going through the roof. I mean, I live in a very affluent neighborhood, and the guards at the shopping center, they're getting tased now. So these kids are coming up, tasing the guards and stealing stuff. So that's what happens when you defund the police and you say, don't punish people. I'm going, oh my God. So I'm concerned about our citizens. So I carry a gun all the time now.
I mean, I live in New York City. I can't tell you, I don't know if this is reported nationwide, but the amount of crime here, I mean, there's stabbings are routine, like unprovoked attacks have become the norm. And it's not like 2, 3 a.m. in the morning where you're like, oh, okay, well, it's happening at like 7 p.m. at night, underneath our buildings. It's absolutely absurd what's happening. You mentioned Donald Trump. I know you're really good friends with him. I need to ask you, do you think he'll run again?
Of course, I would vote for him, but I'm afraid that he might be too divisive, but I would vote for him. That's my answer. The reason he and I got together, that ESG, environmental, social, governance, we got together as social. We got together because, with this book here, the gap between rich and poor is too wide. And then in 2016, he ran for president. He went from E to S to G. And now he's in governance. And that's a dirty, 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 dirty game. So I hope he runs. I would vote for him. But I think it'll divide this country even worse.
Robert, I love speaking with you, and I hope to see you soon in person. And
you're going down to the Trixie mine with me, okay? You'll see real gold.
I never miss an opportunity to hang out with you and check out a new gold mine. And I urge everyone to get a copy of this great read. Like I said, it's making me reflect a lot about my educational journey. And one thing, I've been thinking about is, when they ask us, who were your favorite teachers in life, right? How come it's always, you could count the number of great teachers on one hand if you're lucky. I've had more bad teachers and whatever teachers than great teachers. Maybe it's just me, but isn't that a sad thing?
You're asking a very, very tenuous question, because my poor dad was a PhD, which stands for poor, helpless, and desperate. And they believe that their credentials, they believe a higher degree, like a master's or doctorates, will save them from the world. So their values are different. Whereas you and I and other people say, well, let's learn about money. Let's learn about finance. But in the academics world, I have a PhD and I'm smarter than you.
Right.
And that's different value systems. The reason I joined the Marine Corps and not the Coast Guard, I could have flown for the Coast Guard or flown for the Marine Corps. If I'm going to go to war, I want to go with guys who want to kill. I don't want to go to war with a Coast Guard guy who wants to save lives. I want to make sure our values are lined up. So that's kind of it's the same as in marriage. If marriage is a tough game also, but if your values are lined up, you have a better chance. So values are core to the individual, and unfortunately, we all don't come from the same set of values. And most school teachers are different from us. They're good people, like my poor dad's a good man, but he was a Marxist. He believed in taxation and the abolition of private property and labor unions.
Robert, I'm going to leave you with the last word. Final thoughts for all our viewers watching. They're all big fans of yours. What would you like them to know?
Well, since we're on a goals channel, I'd say your biggest thing is put yourself on a gold standard and silver standard. The hard, start with one silver coin is what, $20, or one gold coin is about 2,000. But put yourself on a gold and silver standard because they're still real money. And that was just, and it's now tier 1 according to the BIS, Bank of International Settlements, which Andy Schechtman talks about. It was moved from gold was moved from tier 3 to tier 1, which means gold is money.
Well, thank you for celebrating my birthday with me today.
Happy birthday.
Get this book, guys. And Robert, I'll see you soon.
In the mine, I hope. In the mine.
In the mine. Get my hard hat out. Folks, thank you all for watching. We'll have much more incredible content coming your way on the Daniela Cambone Show here on Stansberry Research. Thank you to Robert Kiyosaki for giving us the exclusive here today. His book is out now. And we'll be back soon. Stay on top of all our latest interviews. Sign up at DannyCambone.com. That's it for me. Thanks for watching.
Opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the contributor and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Stansberry Research, its parent company, or affiliates.